All right, we're going to wrap up our time here in Los Angeles. Another edition of Riding Home, this time on location. So we were just talking upstairs about the parade and Stetson and just, everything. And just real quick sort of final thoughts of Los Angeles and what Georgia accomplished.
Yeah, we've been out here for a while.
For sure.
I'm ready to go home, but it was a fun trip, and I think that it was an even more fun trip for the DAWGS. That's one of the biggest differences between this and last year. Is it feels like they had a lot of fun. It was a business trip. You could tell the difference in their experience versus TCU's experience as far as these bowl games and these week-long trips. But look at last night. You're looking at Instagram. They're eating chicken wings on the sideline in the middle of the game. It was a little much, but they were having a blast. And this program's in the best place it's ever been.
Yeah, he's right.
I mean, we witnessed probably the peak of Georgia football in this program,
Yeah.
and I mean that was just eclipsing a previous peak from last year, and I mean just what a moment for this program. I mean, this is historic not only for Georgia but in college football in general. I mean, we've said it multiple times, but it's once a decade. This team does it.
It's about once a decade,
and that's huge. I mean, who of Georgia's main rivals can really say that?
Well, I don't consider Alabama a traditional rival of Georgia's. No one has ever. I mean, there's only been 8 programs in the history of college football that have gone back to back. And a couple of those were shared titles. Like, I don't believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think Miami never did this. Miami was really very good. Not straight up consensus national championships. So, go on with your thought. I mean, I think it was a huge weekend for college football. You have a new, you don't have a new power. You have a new king, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, and a more
there's a
kind of stable
There's
one.
a clear best program right now, to me, and it's Georgia.
Yeah, and Kirby Smart is the clear best coach right now.
Right now.
It is what it is. He is the best coach right now.
Do we have to put a trigger warning on that?
Is it like, get mad if you want?
I don't know why. I mean,
it's just the truth.
Nick is the best college football coach all time, in my opinion.
And he's the second best coach currently,
right now.
just because, dude. It is recency bias, but I mean they just went back to back.
Right.
What they've been building so quickly.
It's recency bias, but that's what it's.
The thing is, you can get mad about recency bias, but it's just what's going on.
You would say the same thing in 2020. I mean, like, are we going to still say that? The easiest one to pick on is Clemson. I mean, are we still saying they're one of the best 2 programs in the country? No, clearly not. That's not recency bias. It's based in current reality bias.
These things fluctuate. And
Sure.
Kirby,
it's not as permanent. It's not permanent.
But getting back to it, I mean, there is a clear dominant program. When you win one championship, you're the clear dominant program of that year, and great, congrats. But when you do it back to back, I mean, you are really putting it out there that everyone is below you.
Make sure you're picking up Double Dogs. The link is down below. We're getting a lot of orders. I want to make sure I get those out to y'all, the folks that watch this all the time. Pick that up today. Did you think, was there like a moment in the championship game that struck you that you'll remember? I mean, Stetson, I will say, in reviewing the video, there's so much data. There's about a half a terabyte of data that I have to go through. It's hard to pull that off. Kirby was jokingly discussing a three-peat. He did say that. I was right there. It's so loud and ambient noise, I can't hear anything, and our focus is other stuff after the games. But I don't think them winning a national championship next season is out of the question at all. I think they will come into the year number 1. I don't know if they deserve to be number 1.
I mean,
I don't know that anyone else.
Number 3 this year.
I don't know that anyone else. Well, Georgia's not going to be out of the top 5 anytime soon.
No,
They're just
it's
too good.
I hate calling it the new Alabama, but that's a good way to put it because that's what we've seen. Now, to be that, they have to sustain success for a longer period of time. I don't see why that doesn't happen. I don't see why
Alabama may be the reason it doesn't happen.
It could be. I don't see why they don't win more in the next 10 years.
Oh,
or
if
in the
they
next
don't
2
win-
or 5.
So Jeff Dantzler's been around Georgia for a long time. I remember the conversation he and I had at Foley Field. He just was this is right after 17, the 17th season. He said, "Do you think that they'll win a national championship?" That was the question. I said, "Jeff, if they don't win multiple national championships under Kirby, something's gone wrong."
Well,
And I still feel that way. Obviously, they've done that, but moving forward, for the next 6 to 10 years, if there's not a couple more, something's changed. Maybe something's not gone wrong, but something's changed, and something is changing. But go ahead.
I think after the Rose Bowl, you were saying that, or maybe after that, the 17 national championship, I think you were saying your prediction was that Kirby would win 3 over the next decade.
I said that?
Yeah, I remember that pretty well
yeah.
because I was like, well, that kind of makes sense. And then for a couple of years, it was like, oh, I don't know, this is looking
Yeah.
tough. But then, I mean, now we're right back on track with that prediction.
So that would be one in the next 4 years.
Yeah.
And I don't, that sounds like a lot.
I mean, one national championship is a lot. 2
it's
is a lot.
not easy to pull off. And, does Nick win one again? 3, 2, 1. Does Nick win again in the rest of his career? 3, 2, 1.
No.
Yes.
Oh.
No.
No one's saying it, but
Why? I mean, that's the smarter bet.
not with Georgia in that conference doing what they're doing hurts Alabama.
Are you thinking Brian Kelly?
LSU and
Okay.
Brian Kelly, LSU. I partially used to think a little bit because let's see what happens with Texas and Oklahoma. I don't think that's an issue as far as Alabama goes. It's the
Some
truth.
say-
Jimbo and the Aggies.
Oh, we're just
Yeah,
gonna go
well,
there. huh?
there's a
But
lot.
Well, let's
I
bring
think
up Shane
Ohio
Beamer while
State.
we're at it.
I think Ohio State will win one soon. I don't know what soon is. Next 5 years, I would say yes. Ohio State's gonna win one.
Yeah, if they've not won one in the next 5
Yeah.
years, something's wrong.
I think Lincoln Riley can legitimately win.
I do too.
Out there with
I
all
do
that talent out there.
Yeah.
He just gets a couple more defensive guys.
Yeah.
He could win one next year, and no
He
one's
could.
talking about that.
No, they could
So-
with Williams.
I think that the
He's
landscape is changing, and the last few years they've had some serious talent at quarterback, and they'll continue to get that.
Who is
But
that?
Bama.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with no. I don't think he wins another one. It's hard to sustain that dominance.
And you said yes. Oh, I don't think Alabama's going to be dominant in the way. So y'all were much younger, but from 9 to 15, they were as dominant a program as we've seen in college football. From 16 on, it's not been as dominant. They've won 2, I believe, 17 and 20. That's really good. But they were absolutely dominant from 9 to 15. And then Kirby left and some things changed. You said yes.
Just not going to bet against the man. I
Yeah,
mean,
they're good enough.
Yeah, and I don't know how long he's going to go for. It doesn't seem like it's slowing down anytime soon. But I mean, they always bring in top talent. They always have a top elite coaching staff. It's just hard to bet against Nick Saban that he would not get to ride off into the sunset a little bit. That he's done all this and then just kind of all crumbles if he was to coach for another 5 years.
I have another question, and this really is not.
I have a 3-2-1 off. What you just said.
Let me
Do
go
you
first,
wanna
and
do
then
yours first?
I don't want to forget this because I will. Because this has been a curious conversation on our message board, which is a premium message board where you pay and you chat with us, and it's well worth the money. You can check that out over on Dog Post. All right, 3, 2, 1. Do you think that Deion Sanders will get the Colorado Buffalo? Is it Buffaloes or Buffalo?
I think it's a Buffaloes.
Those plural. I
I
mean,
think it's plural.
with
more
the
than
S.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that he will get the Buffs into the playoff, into the
sorry.
expanded
12 team?
playoff? Do you think that he will get them into the playoff in the next 5 years? 3, 2, 1.
No.
Yes.
You
I'm
do.
gonna say yeah. Yeah, because there's 12 teams. Yeah, because there's 12 teams.
I mean,
And
that
think-
means they're the first or second best team in the Pac-12.
Yeah, I think that is not out of the realm of possibility at all.
To me, not with Oregon and USC in that conference.
Well, you skipped the team, which is Utah.
and Washington.
Yeah, UW is.
Those are all better programs.
There's clearly better programs.
But they're going to get talent.
But what are we talking about?
Okay,
when
but
we
how
saw
long is he there for?
I don't
That's-
know.
that's-
Well, that's the kind of addendum to this. But when we were talking about Deion being on the screen, it was you and I. underneath the stadium, and was like, well, this is the whole point.
Yeah, that's a huge deal. I mean, you know,
This is the point.
when Mel Tucker was the coach there was no way
No
they
one
would.
knew.
They would. Yeah, they weren't going to bring him on for the national championship. Get to sit next to Nick Saban and that entire crew. And sure, you're not going to be bringing in top 5 classes, but if you're able to bring in top 20 classes and get kids' attention that way, which he is, I mean, that's going to transform Colorado. I don't know if it's going to make them a top 12 program in the country.
Just once.
Just once, very possible.
That would be a real fun game, you know, Colorado at Georgia, or Clemson goes to Colorado, or Alabama, Colorado. What was your 3-2-1?
My 3-2-1 is a hypothetical, but if Alabama wins again under Saban within the next 5 years, is that the last game he's ever coached? 3, 2, 1.
No.
Yes.
No, I think he will have a Steve.
So we feel very differently about it.
Yeah, so I think that Nick is going to get, I think it will hit Nick all at once, and he will be very much the Steve Spurrier type of thing, which
And
is
he's not going to kind of go out on his own.
well, he will go out on his own, but it
But
will
too
not.
late.
It will not be a national championship. It might be.
You should. Everyone should.
It might be. Well, then maybe Kirby should announce his retirement
I
tomorrow.
don't think they're done.
I don't think they are either. But I mean, Nick. They just don't think they can stop winning, and he's won a lot. And now the challenge is, can he get back to the mountaintop? But you were about to say something.
I think he'll probably. I don't know if he'll go on too long necessarily, but I don't think he doesn't seem like someone who's going to end it on a win and be like, this is where I want to stop. He'll stop kind of when he wants, and you know, very well might end up that way. But I'm guessing these people just tend to go a little too long. Tom Brady right now, I mean, he's just holding on a little bit too long, and I just feel like that's how he's going to go out in the end.
Did Aaron Rodgers hung on too long?
To the Packers,
That's not
maybe,
getting
but
better, man.
To the Packers,
To
maybe.
the
Well, he made a
Packers,
weird
yeah.
comment the other day. It sounded like he's played his last game as a Packer. So.
Well, he'd get $60 million coming back, right? I mean, that's a significant amount of money.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I think with Kirby, I don't think he coaches for a super long time. Like, he's not coaching into his 70s, is my guess. The way that a lot of other guys
What would
do.
that be?
So he's in his
Another
40s still, or is he in his 50s?
Is that another 25 years?
At least.
Yeah. I mean, I am skeptical. I hope for his
I think
happiness.
he's done in his early 60s, if not before that. I don't think this is a guy that's going to
So
coach
that'd
for
be
a super
another
long
15
time.
years. That's a
Which is a
20-year
long-
career.
yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
that's as long as Vince went. That's a long time, and
But
he
15
owes it.
more years? I don't know. I think he's got maybe 10 more.
I hope. I like
Yes,
you said,
sure.
I hope for him,
I hope for him.
and his family that he does eventually decide to go live a more civilian
Where
life.
were
So.
we were in here, and he had a. I thought this morning, golly, I'm getting confused, because I didn't sleep from the game till the press conference. I think that was one of the most human. Kirby is not usually the way he was this morning. I do think he's growing up. It sounds so bad. I think he continues to progress in terms of what he thinks this is all about. That's what it feels like. And he talked about he didn't want championships to define him or the players. He wanted. He said he sometimes questions if he's being a good father and husband, which I think is what, frankly, as both of those things, I think we should all, make sure we're trying to do the right thing all the time. It's easier said than done. So it is good to hear as a human that he, Andrew, his son, it is fun to watch. His youngest son is like a clone, and was very emotional hugging those guys last night, because there's a lot of those guys that Andrew will never see again. I have a daughter his age, and they're old enough to know that change happens, but they're young enough to really let a moment. And he was hugging Dominique Blaylock, and it felt like he would never see Dominique Blaylock again. And these guys get attacked. And
But he was crying about Stetson.
Andrew, and you know, and the human side of this is that Kirby and Mary Beth, they don't deal with that, but that's part of their life. Is, you know, the connection that their children and their family make inside the program, inside the university. I mean, his parents weren't there last night. That was one of the most important nights of Kirby's life, and his parents weren't able to be there. And that had to be hard for him.
Well, it's cool and fun to see the more introspective version of Kirby.
That's the best way to put it, yeah.
Because it really is, I mean, and I think we joke about it a lot, he is robotic.
We joke about Kirby
this
all
is,
the time.
all of this
Yeah.
winning has lightened him up.
Well,
I think you're right.
It's totally.
I mean, just
and I get it because
I
the
think you're right.
stress and pressure that not only that he's put on himself, but the university, all the fans.
I
that
think
they
he's
just
lightened
did.
up. I don't know that the program's pretty hardcore, but I'm
Yeah.
saying
No, he
I hope-
personally.
I think it
like,
feels that way, and he's not our
from
friend. We don't know
our
him.
perspective.
Yeah, we don't know him.
He could be tightening up for all I know.
Yeah, we don't know.
Like, but
But for the people I talk to inside the program, it has gotten better.
well, and just as photographers too. I mean, a lot of our
Yes,
job
you
is
see
just
it.
is just
Yeah.
watching him.
Yeah.
And you know, earlier in his career, he used to be a lot more photogenic because he
Yes.
was a lot angrier, and it'd be
Constantly,
the second
yeah.
quarter against Georgia Tech, and he would just be laying into someone. But now it's a lot less. Yeah, a lot less
did
movement.
he get angry at all last night?
Yes, he did.
What did he get
He
angry
started to like in the
about?
third
I
quarter.
was just gonna say it was
He
the fourth quarter, and he was going off. I mean, not going off. He was like, "Chill out." He was talking to the guys that were in there on defense, and they weren't quite performing. I do want to go. This is something we actually only touched on briefly. I ran back out there because I was trying to do as much work as possible during the third quarter, and I was like, "They're gonna take Stetson out. They're gonna take Stetson out." And that moment was pretty good. I thought.
I would say you were talking about moments from the game yesterday.
That is the
and
moment,
I
probably.
think so. I think that was a big one because you're not really going to remember any of the plays.
I don't.
Because they didn't matter, honestly. 'Cause
Dude, it was.
Did you get that shot of them hugging?
No, so I
Okay.
went down into the crowd to get the fourth quarter lights,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
they didn't happen, so I kind of hesitated and I didn't leave in time, and I was on an escalator. I heard them doing the Stetson thing, and it turns out the fourth quarter lights ended up happening.
at like 13
So
minutes.
I missed it for nothing.
Because they stopped it because they were about to do it, but then they did a video presentation honoring veterans, and it was like, okay, nice
Oh.
Georgia fans, or y'all just hate the veterans then,
Yeah.
like so they stopped,
Yeah.
and it was a little weird, but
It was well, they called timeout so they could do it.
yeah.
See, oh, they did?
Georgia called timeout so the fourth quarter lights could happen. With
Oh.
13 minutes left.
Lad McConkey.
Everyone was excited about that. Too,
Yeah,
the
Lad
players.
McConkey. But it was A.D. Mitchell was like at the front of the pack going towards the Redcoats. The Redcoats, y'all, I mean, they are the soundtrack to Saturdays in Athens. They just are. And they, they're there at all these games. They're there at the bad games. They are identified immediately as part of Georgia. And so when they're going to Auburn or Tennessee or all these places, I mean, they get it too. They get, all the grief, but they are the soundtrack to the fall, and they have done an excellent job over the last 20 to 30 years of, I mean, the Redcoats are better than they used to be, first of all, but secondly, Kirby and the kids on the team do appreciate, and the coaches on it, they do appreciate this, the cheerleaders and the band and all this stuff. There's so much that goes into Georgia, and other schools have it too. But like the Clemson band sucks. The Ohio State band was good. LSU's band is good.
The band the last 2
Georgia
years I
Tech's
remember
band
being good
sucks.
was Tennessee. I thought
Tennessee has a good
was pretty
band. Oh yeah, but like that really matters because the cheerleaders are right there, but the band is like a block of a couple hundred people, and they're going hard, and they matter a lot at Sanford. It wasn't Sanford here, but all this stuff, and the only reason I mentioned the Redcoats was because like when Kirby was like running, I think he tried to get to every section, as I recall, and like last year was such pandemonium getting off the field. You know what I'm talking about with Jordan and like, I mean, it was crazy. And this year was much more, I'm taking this moment in. That's what it felt like from Kirby.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing was the whole game. I felt like was almost a pep rally. It was like, let's go through all the pageantry of all this. You know, let's give Stetson his moment. Let's give Chris Smith his moment.
It was
let's
like
do
it was
the
written
lights.
before it happened. And I don't.
Well, we wrote our stories before it happened.
But I don't know. It almost feels like it didn't happen. Like the more I think about last night,
That's
I'm like,
what my sister's been saying.
the more
right?
I think about last night, the more I'm like, did that actually happen? Like I don't remember the plays.
No, I mean the only play that I can think of is the Javon Bullard interception right before halftime, because that's when, you were just like, wow, they're about to just blow the brakes off.
Yeah.
Like because they're gonna go score, and I think, what is it? It's
37.
They did.
38-7.
It was 31-7.
31-7. Javon Bullard picks them off.
Yeah, and you're like, wow, they're about to have, almost a 31-point advantage going into half. Like, because before then, 24, you're like, well, maybe they can do something.
I've still never watched the Alabama National Championship game from last year. That's how crazy 22 was for me. I just couldn't watch it. I just had no time. I've already seen this game almost completely on television because for a quarter and a half of it, I was I was inside working because I could. And like the Alabama game last year, it wasn't like that. You couldn't chill out. Like it was
You had to be there
hardcore. You didn't know which play would matter. As it turns out, very fortunately, we all nailed the one play that really mattered. I did not. Thanks, Ben. But I'm just kidding. But I did get the A.D. Mitchell shot. There was such pandemonium and panic and all that. That was not what this was. This was a trip. This was a Sunday trip. They were just going to the grocery store.
It was. It felt like it was routine for them.
It was.
I mean, they routined and some. It was. I've never seen that. I just have never. I've never seen anything like that on a championship scale.
All right, we're gonna wrap this up because I have to go punch the button. But thanks for watching. Sign up for the newsletter below if you've not gotten the book. Make sure that you're checking it out. Thanks for watching Riding Home on Dog Post.